The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. We got ourselves such a great show. Joining us in the second segment, we are going to be joined by Grammy-nominated mastering engineer Idania Valencia. If you've ever listened to a Benson Boone song or a Charlie XCX song or a Coldplay song and had the same thought that I do every time I hear any of those artists, man, these tracks are really well polished, really well put together. Just an amazing sonic experience all around. Well, the person you have to largely thank for that will be joining us in the second segment, Idania Valencia. It's going to be a blast to hear from her. Great story, fantastic young mastering engineer who's already doing such cool things in this industry. I imagine she's going to have some incredible insights and advice to share with all of you. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be talking all about that. Let me just say, viewers and listeners, this week has been a pretty damn good week to be Ryan Kairalla. I have to say, this has just been a pretty fantastic few days. Let me run it down for you. Earlier in this week, I had the pleasure of going with producer Lauren to the Miami Music Tech Summit. We were invited. We didn't even have to crash the party. They let us come. I could not believe it. Going to the Miami Music Tech Summit, getting not only to see some of the really cool startups that are out there now, but getting just to network and hobnob and get a lot of great insights from those people. We're going to talk a little bit about the Miami Music Tech Summit this week, probably next week as well, because it was just a transcendent experience for me and producer Lauren. I hope they invite us back again next year. Our thanks to Shoshana Zisk and Brian Zisk for letting us hang out with them this week. Also, another great week. Another reason why it's great to be Ryan Kairalla this week is it's opening day for Major League Baseball. And for reasons still escaping my understanding, the Miami Marlins won opening day. And look, I love my Marlins, but I also understand the limitations of this ball club. All right, I looked at that starting lineup today, and I did not recognize a single damn name. Like, I'm pretty sure that lineup could go to like any Midwestern rec beer league and come like fourth in that league. That is not a particularly potent roster, but damn it if they didn't pull out a win against Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I'm just going to be pretty insufferable for the next few days until the Marlins start losing again, inevitably. But until then, I'm going to have some irrational expectations for my baseball team. You know, you squint the right way. That's a team that they can get you like 88 games this year. You know, you look at them the right way. You know, a couple guys get hot. You never know. Speaking of people who just never cease to surprise us, let's go ahead and bring in our co-host this week. Elisa Rockdock is here. Hey, Elisa.
If you look at the team the right way, which is with a blindfold, then
yeah.
Oh, heaven.
We got a guy on our team named Norby.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's going to be our next, oh God, who was it? Cody
Ross?
Cody Ross.
Oh,
yes.
We
yes,
used to have some
always
great
have to,
Cody Ross memories back in the day.
We have to find our like pet player on the Marlins to root for, ironically / unironically.
Yeah, those are the best players where like they're completely no name and you root for them because nobody else is, and it's completely ironic, and then suddenly like they start batting like 290 and you're like, yeah, I was first to this party.
And then they get traded immediately.
And then they get that is the experience of a Marlins fan. How are you, Elisa? I'm so happy to be chatting with you.
I'm successful. How are you?
I want to very much hear about all of that. We're going to do the Elisa career update a little bit later in this segment. How excited are you to be chatting with Idania Valencia in the next segment? I know you were you were going off on how thrilled you are for this interview.
Well, I'm actually very, very excited because despite being surrounded by music and being my own recording artist and having the benefit of having somebody who's trained and has had his own career doing sound reinforcement and sound engineering live, there is still a lot about the process that mystifies me, and like mixing and mastering is definitely one of those things that feels still incredibly esoteric to me. And as I'm writing new music and recording new music, stay tuned for more details on that later, I am definitely wanting to be a little bit more hands on and really get into learning a lot more about what actually could make my beautiful music sausage work, up to and including the mixing, the mixing and mastering process. Because before I would just kind of just like shove it off, be like, "Hi, person who knows way better than me, you do this." But this time I want to come at it from with my eyes a little bit more wide open. So I'm looking forward to learning more about the process and the mentality, because I imagine that it is different thinking about things as a musician versus kind of stepping back and taking that, you know, zoomed out view of a song, and thinking about how it's going to play in all sorts of different systems and all that stuff. So I'm so looking forward to just absolutely barraging her with questions later.
If we can leave this week's show with all of us, including the viewers and listeners, having just a greater understanding and appreciation of what these professionals do, I think that would be a pretty great use of this hour. And I'm with you on, I'm guilty, as you were saying, of treating that process as something of an afterthought. Even on my legal side of the ledger, when I represent an artist, you know, we put a lot of work into like the producer contract, right? We draft these long producer contract terms. I'm working regularly with the producer and the artist to put the album together. And then by the time the thing's done, it's just like, yeah, now send it off for mixing and mastering.
Yeah,
it's treated as an afterthought, even though it's so critical to the process. And, you know, good mastering, great mastering can get you Grammy nominations and, you know, turn an amazing song into a hit. And, you know, but you put that recording in the hands of the wrong mastering engineer, it can be curtains. And so I'm glad that we're going to get the opportunity to highlight the amazing work that like people like Adanya do. That's going to be awesome. But before we do that, Elisa, I wanted to talk to you about just what I've been seeing all over TikTok for the last couple weeks now, I would say. And it's like, it's a blast from the past, but is also happening right now. And it is all about the song that just entered number 10 in the Billboard Hot 100 this week, which is the song Anxiety by Doechii. And the reason why I say it's a blast from the past is really two reasons. One, the song itself was actually originally made by Doechii back in 2019. She released it on YouTube, and it sort of kind of floated around for a while and has now come roaring back in 2025 and has become a top 10 hit, fueled primarily by something that happened in 1990, which is the dance from the season 1 of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Will Smith and Tatiana Ali that was then remixed by a TikToker using the Doechii song, which has made that dance and the Doechii song front and center in our pop culture right now. And I love that this is like the time we're in right now. Well, this is how songs become hits.
It's so the nature of the 21st century popular culture is to just put a bunch of nostalgia in a blender and see what happens. What was really interesting is because ever since the unbanning thing of TikTok, I feel like the vibes have been incredibly different and or rancid and or haunted. So I have not really been on TikTok all that much since January. But it was kind of interesting because you mentioned that, and then I start, looking up the video, and I know that I've heard kind of snippets of Anxiety, and I've seen some of these dances around. And then when I looked on YouTube, I was like, oh, Doechii, Anxiety, 9.1 million views 4 years ago. And then it was like a weird sort of like, wait a minute, this is odd. And I watched that music video, and it's so interesting because it's literally her on her bedroom with the laptop and a microphone.
Yep.
Like she's recording it like on her bed. And doing this bedroom producing thing, which is kind of wild that came out in 2019, considering that was kind of the way of so much music production the following year, and
Ahead of the
beyond.
time.
So then looking it up, it's I feel like it is a perfect storm of so many things, up to and including the the dance, which has been a meme and has been a popular sort of GIF response since time immemorial, just because it's fun to see Will Smith and Tatiana Ali bopping around like that in perfect sync.
Yep.
The thing that that represents, which is the idea of like you're dancing in your bedroom free and someone comes to join you, maybe it's an ironic thing and maybe they're kind of mocking you, but then it turns out that you're actually kind of celebrating this experience together. So it's that kind of heartwarming thing. Plus, I don't know how old you feel right now, but would you like to feel a little bit older?
You're not going to tell me how old that clip is, are you?
No, I am going to tell you how old somebody that I used to know is, which is the song that is sampled in Doechie's Anxiety, which itself samples another song. But Gautier's Somebody That I Used to Know is now 14 years old this year.
Oh, I'm fully aware of its age, actually, only because as I was researching this song, what you just described to me about how old this song was fully embraces this like nostalgia blender that this whole Doechii song is. Because I mean, I'm going to lay it out here because this is hilarious to me. Because I saw somebody say on Twitter, like, oh, I hope Doechii is thanking the millennials for giving you the sample that made this song a hit. And I was like, if we're going to do that, we need to thank so much more than the millennials. Because, as you noted, Elisa, this song, Anxiety, is a 2025 song, originally released in 2019, heavily sampling from a 2011 Gautier song, which itself sampled a xylophone part from a 1967 Louise Bonfa instrumental called Seville. Meanwhile, the track hit the top 10 this week, partially due to a TikTok video craze that uses a dance sequence from a 1990 Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode featuring Will Smith and Tatiana Ali. So forget about millennials. Like, this is a Gen Z song that has to thank the millennials, the Gen Xers, and the boomers for putting this song in the top 10. It's beautiful.
I think it's wonderful. And I think it also speaks to like, it's the value of just how good that xylophone part is, two, how huge Somebody That I Used to Know was, and also the idea of anxiety is watching me. Universal.
Yeah.
Absolutely universal themes, and it's a great format that is a jumping off point for so many people to also then kind of reveal maybe their own anxieties. And it kind of gives people an opportunity to not only kind of jump on a viral trend, but also get that little bit of like authenticity flavor that people crave. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of be vulnerable while being funny. And the song's really good. And Doechii friggin' slaps. And Doechie's just having a moment, period.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's sort of the same thing that I imagine happens as people go back and watch Chapel Roan covers on YouTube. And I'm sure those videos now have millions of views that they did not have previous to her rise. Now that somebody's like, wait, who's Doechii? What has she done? And people want to kind of go down the rabbit hole. And it's kind of a testament to, I guess, not necessarily taking everything down off of YouTube, and thinking that like, hey, if something doesn't hit now, you never know what confluence of events could make your song relevant again. So I think it's a pretty cool convergence of all of these beautiful things that kind of make a pop culture moment happen. And I hope that it drives people to kind of dig through the layers of references upon references, so that we can cite our sources a little bit better. That's Dr. Melendez.
To me, I think that's the lesson that we learn. If artists are to extrapolate anything from this and put it into their own experience, it's hold on to your catalog. And just because something is even 5 years old or more doesn't mean it can't find a way to get back into the consciousness. And that wasn't the case a few years ago. Like, it used to be like if your song didn't hit after 24 months, that was basically the end of that. So this is kind of a cool place that we're in now, where songs can take on a new life, because maybe the song was a little ahead of its time, because we didn't have as much anxiety in 2019 as we do in 2025. And now we need your song, don't you? But beyond that, I'm not sure what other lesson you can draw from it, other than the things that make songs hits now is so much harder to predict than it's ever been. It used to be you wanted a hit song, you got a label and you pounded radio stations. You just, you sent your promoters out there and just radio. Now, it's catching lightning in a bottle. You need a whole bunch of things to all intersect at the same time. Some random TikToker thinks your song matches well with the 1990 Fresh Prince of Bel-Air dance, makes a video. People think that dance and that video and that song is cool. They make their own videos. Will Smith sees it, goes, "Oh, that's cool." And while he's trying to promote his own album that I think comes out tomorrow.
Oh, right.
He, gets in on this trend, and now we have a top 10 hit. I mean, how is anybody supposed to build a marketing campaign around that?
Absolutely. Which is why, we are interested in breaking this business, because I feel like the artists themselves have the ability to be nimble in ways that a bunch of suits in a lab cannot and do not understand any of this. It is a testament to being able to just and hopefully what I don't want people to take away from this is to be like, okay, what 40-year-old TV show can I, am I expecting full Zack Attack homages now? Are we gonna do hot Sunday homages from Saved by the Bell in order to make our songs go viral? That is not the lesson. The lesson is to stay on your grind, and kill some darlings, but maybe not all of them, because you literally never know. So you have to have a good head on your shoulders and not be chasing all of this stuff, but instead, if you put things out from a place of authenticity, from a place of your own sort of creativity, and not just kind of chasing virality, people at some point are going to relate to it and are going to find it, and your people will find that thing. Just might take a few years.
To be honest, I actually think you were right the first time. I think the lesson is you just need to find some footage from a 90s TV show and sync it with some song you put out 5 years ago. I am waiting, mark my words, in the next 3 weeks, somebody is going to sync their song to Detective Sipowitz's butt from NYPD Blue and find their way into the Hot 100.
And yoinking that idea and putting it in my pocket. Thank you.
America needs Dennis Franz's butt now more than ever.
Honestly.
Oh my gosh. So I want to just talk to you briefly about the Miami Music Tech Summit.
Yes.
Because I think next year I want to find a way to bring you in on this,
Oh, that
have you
would be
come
so
back to
fun.
your old stopping grounds, because it was a blast. And again, I want to extend my sincerest gratitude to Shoshana and Brian Zisk for inviting Break the Business to come and cover the event. We had a blast. We took lots of footage. I don't know if that footage is, I think we might have it ready by next week, but we'll have some cool stuff to play about it. It's going to be really, really awesome. I will say this, and I kind of want your advice on this, Elisa, because you go to a lot more events than I do these days. I'm still kind of in my post-COVID, hermitness.
Oh, yeah.
Coupled with having a toddler, so I can't ever go out and do anything anymore. And I feel like I've lost my schmoozing muscles have atrophied a bit.
Oh, yeah.
I can't hobnob the way I used to. And so, I mean, when you were getting back into the cons, what got you able to shake the hands and kiss the babies back at mid-season form again?
Oh, that's implying that I am back in mid-season form, because I'm still kind of trying to get over agoraphobia frequently. It's still hard, and there is not a moment, including the current one, that I do not feel awkward when I'm talking to other people. So I might wear it well, but I am, anxiety is watching me at all times. So do not worry. One, everybody is in the same exact state as you are, so do not worry. Nobody knows what they're doing. That is lesson one. But it's a matter of, I think one of the biggest sort of takeaways is like, be curious, and find the people that you are curious about, and then use that curiosity to drive your conversation. And like, very simple things like, how did you get your start? What drove you to this in the first place? What are you currently working on? What have you just worked on? These are kind of basic questions. And the cool thing is that, as a sociologist, I can attest, if you ask really cool open-ended questions, then they're just giving you fodder to ask even more questions. So don't do yes or no questions. Leave questions open-ended so that people can give you content with which to ask them more. And practice makes perfect. And we're not perfect at all. But I also think like having something cool to share that you are yourself excited about can be a good driver, as well. I think if you base a lot of your interactions in excitement for your own product as well as curiosity for others, I think that's going to help get you a certain degree of the way there. And then everything else is, props like business cards and making sure that you have all of your links in order, and make sure that like your contact information is like all good and stuff. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It was very, very difficult going back to MagFest last month and being like, oh yeah, I haven't had the like having to interact with people like outside the panel, that sort of like milling about that you do outside a panel. All of that kind of interesting social group dynamics. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot how to people. So I sympathize. I am there with you. Like I wish I could give advice, because I feel like advice comes from a place of expertise of which I have none. So I'm still working on it. But I just doing the do. I mean, the fact that like I spoiler alert, I did catch some of the footage behind the scenes, and like they gave you a whole ass microphone.
Oh, we brought that from home.
No, but you were like speaking. You were like on a panel?
Oh, I'll tell you about that. That's actually a really cool thing that they did that I'd love to see more conferences do. They set aside, and if other conferences are listening, consider this. They set aside like a whole session of their conference for what they called like the elevator pitch session.
Ooh.
Where they basically just passed the mic around and let everybody give like a 60-second spiel about what they're doing and what they'd like to accomplish. And I'll tell you, like doing that right at the top of the conference just, allowed me to know right away, okay, who are the people I want to chat with first? Who wants to chat with me? And by sort of bringing up that we're here as media, it let people know that they could come talk to us and we could get interviews. That was such a great way to open the conference. I strongly recommend that more conferences do that.
That's a great thing. And then also like, to the folks at home, no matter whether there is a session for that or not, have that 60-second elevator pitch.
Yep.
Just in your back pocket. Because, whether it's, you have something cool on, or you have a booth, or you're at a panel or something, it is entirely possible that at some point somebody is going to come up to you and be like, all right, so what are you all about? And you got to be able to basically boil down your essence in a sound bite, which sounds pretty cheap, but it also, I think, gets to the meat and potatoes of who you are and what you represent. And I think that's going to help you narrow down your focus when it comes to events like these, because you could get so overwhelmed, I imagine, with all of the different cool avenues that you could explore. But I think that's a brilliant idea to have a sort of, especially at the top of the show where everybody can kind of introduce themselves, get to know each other. I feel like that facilitates networking in a way that I think would be very valuable for other conferences.
And I think the danger is if you don't have a session like that, then people are just going to do their elevator pitches during like Q&A sessions at somebody else's panel.
This is more of a comment than a question. Do not do that. Do not. One, I had this written down. I'm sort of like, here are some notes when we talk about Ryan at the convention. What not to do. Don't use somebody else's opportunity to hawk your own stuff. It is gauche. And we do not do gauche. We do not do gauche. We are not gauche. We are refined and awesome artists who do not use
hijack people's panels.
It's enough.
Well,
yeah.
Well, let me give you an opportunity, Elisa, to highlight some of the stuff that you're doing. Give you a little bit longer than an elevator pitch because our viewers and listeners love getting the career updates from you. What are you up to lately? Tell us before we go to break.
Oh my gosh, what am I not? I went bowling last week.
I saw your scorecard. Really good, solid work there.
And that is after not having bowled in probably the better part of 6 months. I just picked up the ball for the first time and I was just like, all right, back to basics, fundamentals. And I knocked out a 150, 155, 150. Call me leagues. But in addition to all of that, this past month was really fun because I got to exercise my medical narration muscles. And that is an interesting part of the gig that I did not expect when I first went into voice acting. I had heard, hey, you have a voice for commercial acting, etc. But I did not realize how many more opportunities than just commercials and character work there could be. So I like the idea of I like to joke, but not really joke, that I don't want to be famous. I want to be ubiquitous. I don't want to be famous. I just want to be everywhere. And basically, hopefully, if you use this particular medical product, hopefully my gentle voice will be guiding you through the process, through a simple 4-step process on how to administer your medication. So I got a chance to do that, which was very cool. And my acting class, which I highly recommend, just throwing that out there, it is never too late, but do not wait to start improving your craft. Take a class in whatever. My acting class is getting interesting because we are at the point now where we are bringing scenes and monologues to then put together a showcase for casting directors. So we are going to be doing our due in front of people that are literally responsible for the trajectory of our careers. No pressure. These are people that I've actively auditioned for already. So these are folks that are going to be seeing more of what we do and hopefully, I don't know, see me on call me Taylor Sheridan. Who happens to produce all this stuff in Texas. So that is
right? Wow, cool.
Yeah, it's a very exciting and very, very nerve-wracking part to the end of the class, but do the scary thing. If you are doing a thing and it makes you really, really nervous, that means that you are one step away from growth, baby. So I'm super excited. And speaking of being one step away from growth, if there are any fans still out there of Crimson Echoes, if any of y'all are still out there and you're waiting for new music, guess who's probably going to be recording vocals next week? Yay! And I would say it's for a new single, but I wrote this song when I was 18, 19, 20 years old.
And what did Doechii just teach us about dusting off your catalog and making it into hits?
Thank you. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
Doechii might have been 3 years old when you recorded this originally, but yeah.
This has a song that has been performed live. So if you have been lucky, wild, woolly enough to have attended a Crimson Echo show, you have heard this song before. It is called Stagnant Waters. It is probably one of my hardest rockin' tunes that I have in the catalog, and I'm very, very excited. It features a drum solo from the one Brian Lang, which I'm very excited to have people hear and showcase my awesome musicians. Miami-based Brian Lang, very, very amazing person. And It's basically just as soon as we shifted our mentality from trying to put an album together to just releasing singles, it was like a block had completely been lifted, and now treating every song as its own kind of individual journey has been really, really useful. And also realizing the length of time that we've taken to work on these songs and the amount of sort of spiritual and mental and you know all of emotional growth that I've experienced in all of those years means that I like being at a place where I can actually look at these things and not hate them entirely, and I can actually put them out. So I skeeted this, tweeted this on Blue Sky the other day. May you get to the point in your creative process where you look back and you go, you know what, you actually did eat that. You know what? You know what? You actually kind of nailed that. Good for you. Actually, you know what? 10 out of 10. No notes. Let's ship this. Actually, move faster than your inner critic, and that is what I'm trying to do. In addition to working on the craft, I am going to start working on, because I'm recording vocals next week, I'm actually going to start training up my voice using this book that my vocal coach recommended, Singing for the Stars, which is very cool and has audio elements to it. So I'm going to be like vocal training montage. I'm booking not a recording studio, but it's actually a venue. So I'm going to be like recording vocals like kind of on a stage, maybe even like behind curtains or something. So like the ambiance I feel like is going to be super dope. So I'm very excited about that. I don't know if it was at like seasonal depression just like lifted super hard, but I or maybe it's like 2025. Maybe I'm just trying to get as much done before I turn 40 in December. Who knows? But things are moving and grooving in a way that excites me, and that I hope that anybody listening out there can feel this feeling of possibility and potential just waiting to strike forth. So yeah, I'm excited to not just plan around the thing as a way of procrastinating, even though it feels like you're doing the thing. And now I'm actually doing the thing instead of just making constant to-do lists. Feels great.
I love that for you. And if I hope that this community can sort of hold you accountable a little bit, because we want to, we want you to keep this moving. All right. We want this to come out into the world. We all want to enjoy this. We'd love for this to sort of work parallel with what you're doing on the acting stuff, to just like keep moving you forward. We'd love nothing more for you. This is exciting. Thrilled for you. And maybe we'll get Adania to master it.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I have so many questions.
Yeah. Well, let's get some of those answered. We're going to take a break and then be back with our guest, Adania Valencia, here on Break the Business. Don't go anywhere. Break the Business is presented in cooperation with Ryan A. Kairalla, PA. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA is a law firm providing transactional entertainment legal services, including contracts, business formation, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida. rkpalaw.com.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. I have what I am hoping to every deity out there is the last update I ever have to give on the Corporate Transparency Act.
Wow.
Viewers, listeners, I know you are annoyed by my constant update on this. I share your annoyance. Whenever I see a new thing about this stupid law, I'm not excited to have to share it with you, but I have a responsibility. A few weeks ago, I had told the viewers and listeners that the enforcement of the Corporate Transparency Act, the law that says if you have a business, you have to tell the federal government who the owners of that business are by filing a beneficial ownership information report, has a March 21st deadline, but the enforcement of that law was in limbo because the Treasury Department and the Trump administration said, we're going to publish a rule that says that you don't have to comply with this, except it was getting very close to March 21st and still no rule was published. So they were just like, hey, trust us, bro. And then on March 21st, like the last possible day, they announced a preliminary rule from the Treasury Department. It might have come out on a Signal group chat, I'm not sure, where they said you don't have to comply with this rule as long as you are an American company. Why it took them so long to publish this, I don't know. But if you are an artist, if you have an LLC, if you have an S Corp, something like that, and you're wondering, do I need to comply with this corporate transparency law? Not right now. It's possible that if there's a new presidential administration, they could change the rule and say you do have to comply, but that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. I mean, Donald Trump could wake up tomorrow and decide I'm going to start enforcing this law. I mean, he's been less impetuous before, but as of right now, I think we're okay in terms of not having to do anything with this law. And God, I hope that's the last thing I have to say about this stupid law.
See, because it's the words preliminary.
Yeah.
And when you say I think, that it doesn't exactly exude confidence.
Oh, yeah, because this is the thing that's like making you lose faith in the government right now. This, not any of the other stuff.
Rather, I am losing confidence in the fact that this is going to be the last update.
God, I mean, yeah, no, knowing my luck, I'm going to be back next week. Just kidding. It's back on again.
This is going to be a running gag.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I laugh all the time to keep from crying. Let's go ahead and bring out our guest this week.
She's a wizard of the sound, raw and real, turning chaos into tracks that feel. Every note, every beat, she refines it right. Idania Valencia, pure audio light. Break the business, bring her in. Let the stories of her craft begin. Mastering the magic, she's the queen of tone. Idania Valencia, carving paths of her own.
Our guest this week is a Grammy-nominated mastering engineer who has worked with top artists including Charlie XCX, Ariana Grande, Benson Boone, Coldplay, and more. You can follow our guest on Instagram at IdaniaVA. We are happy to welcome Idania Valencia on To Break the Business. Hi, Idania.
Hi everyone. How are you?
Overjoyed is the answer to that question. This is so cool. I'm really excited to be chatting with you. And Lisa's apparently got a new single coming out, so she's probably got 1,000 mastering questions for you. But I want to talk to you first about what I imagine you would say is one of your crowning career achievements, at least recently, which was getting a Grammy nomination for both Record of the Year and Album of the Year for your work on the Charlie XCX album Brat. What was the Grammys like? Did you get to go? Tell us about the experience.
Yes, it was incredible. It was my first nomination, so I did get to go and walk the red carpet and see all the artists. So it was very surreal because, as people that work kind of backstage, you don't get sometimes to be part of these events, or more like of the artist's life. So it was really cool to be there, and just see the show live and all of that. And all the artists, that you like. And because you're also there like as a fan. So it was really fun.
That's amazing. And I mean, they obviously don't show like you on camera the way Taylor Swift does. They would show her just singing every single song. But I'd like to think you were there in the crowd, just, singing along to everything and just having a good time, right?
Yeah, completely. Yes.
There you go. Happy to hear it. So that's kind of where you are now. Yeah. And I'm interested in sort of how it all began, because I'm curious about what brings people into wanting to do that work, right? You know, whenever you ask an artist what got you interested in being an artist, they always tell some story about when they were 7 years old. They used to sing songs in a mirror in front of their hairbrush, or into their hairbrush like a microphone. But you never hear about somebody being like, ever since I was a little kid, all I ever wanted to do was be a mastering engineer. Just
No.
and I think your story was you were a piano player in your youth, and so you were going into the traditional artist route. How did you get into the mastering side of things?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I went to school for music composition and also audio engineering because my parents they wouldn't let me just go to music composition without a backup plan.
Huh.
So the school I went to, they also had like audio engineering and music production, which it isn't a real engineering career, but it does sound like it. So they were like, yes, perfect. And I was like, okay, we'll pretend I'm gonna learn a lot of math.
How many
there.
great
Great.
music careers and entertainment careers start with, what do I have to do to get my parents off my back?
I
Yes,
mean,
I know, but somehow, they were onto something because as I was like advancing in school, I realized like, hey, I really like this engineering thing and production thing is very interesting. It's very geeky. I'm very geeky. It's very technical. I just like it. And I was always thinking it's gonna be, a great complement to like me writing music, the fact that I can record myself and all of that. And towards the end, I learned about this mysterious thing called mastering, and I was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "That sounds incredible. I really like it. This idea that you're like the last set of ears on a song, and you're gonna be putting the final touches and signing like your stamp of approval, and now it goes out to the world. And just that idea that you work kind of with the finished product, but you're just like saying like, hey, this sounds great, but I think a little bit of this or that will make it just like perfect. And yeah, since then I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna like do my music thing and mastering engineer, and I end up like really specializing in mastering.
I dig that. And Elisa, I know you have 1,000 questions for Adania, so I'm going to let you have at her in just a second. But I want to follow up with kind of what you were talking about there, about that process, that little bit of this and little bit of that you spoke of. Is that process sort of similar from artist to artist, or does it change based on the particular artist and producer that come in with a particular track?
No, it's pretty similar. We can work any style of music, any language, anything, and yeah, it might change a little bit here and there depending, on the end result that you want, but in general, it's pretty similar.
excellent. And one as an artist, one thing that I'm sort of getting used to now is the idea of even recording myself, because it used to be that I would just go in a studio and everything would be sort of done for me, and now I'm doing the process of actually getting in the DAW myself. But mixing and mastering is still something that is like whoop, kind of over my head, and esoteric. So could you kind of walk me through, like, let's pretend, if I were giving you a track, what is your approach, and kind of what is the difference between something that I've given you and something that has gotten the Adania touch?
Yes. So, well, mastering is the last step in music production, right? It happens after mixing. And if, just like for people in general, someone writes a song, and usually it gets produced by a producer and the artist. They kind of decide this is like the arrangement, the instruments we want to have, and all of that. And then when they have all those parts, they go to the mixing engineer, and the mixing engineer kind of puts together the song with all those elements and like make it sound like a kind of a finished product. And then it comes to us. So yeah, for it to have like my stamp of approval, it has to have, the volume has to be like loud enough to compete with all the other songs that
Mm.
are out there. The EQ, so the sound, it has to be, balanced enough again to compete with all the songs that are out there. And it just has to sound kind of polished and finished. Because sometimes, depending, we get so many types of songs, from songs that sound like done, really, there's not much I can do to them, to songs that are, that might need a lot of work, and we have to work with everything and bring every song to the finish line. Doesn't matter how it's coming to us.
Cool. And it's, it's almost like the difference between, getting a bunch of ingredients together and having like a stew, like an actual like
Exactly.
finished dish. As an artist, what can we do in terms of communicating to a mastering engineer, like what our vision is? And like essentially, like, how do we make your job easier as artists?
Yes. Well, I would say, if you get to the mastering stage and you already kind of are, and you still don't feel like happy with your song, then are some issues that you still have to work on. Because when it gets to us, it's literally the final step, and we can do some miraculous things, but still, like, we cannot really give you something that you don't have. So it is really important for you through the process to feel happy and confident on what you're doing. When the song like goes to mixing, you already have the idea of what you want it to kind of sound like, and when it's mixed, you're happy with the mix. You just want it to be like, the final touches to us, I would say. Because yeah, that might be kind of a conception that some artists, especially more like indie artists, have, that we are gonna take their song and make it sound like, I don't know, like a Charlie XCX song, without like all the work behind being there. We're not magicians.
Do you have any advice for artists on selecting a good mastering engineer, particularly because the process seems so mysterious to those of us who aren't in your line of work?
Yes.
How does an artist pick a good one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like usually when artists go to choose a mastering engineer, they will look up the songs that they really like, uh, and look and figure out who mastered them. And that's how many of them find their mastering engineers. I would also say just go for a reputable studio, like the studio where I work at, Sterling Sound, is like has many years in the industry, and it's a very reputable studio. So that also will give you some guarantee, that that the work that comes out of that studio is always very professional and top.
Off topic now, but I have been told, Adania, that you like cocktails. You become something of a cocktail aficionado lately. And
Yes.
so I got some cocktail questions for you. And for people who are into this world, I like to ask them, what is a cocktail that you swear by, that on paper sounds really weird? Like you would never expect those ingredients to go together, but you have to tell people, trust me, this slaps. You're going to like this drink.
For me, it's a New York sour. I don't know if you've ever had a New York sour,
Oh.
but basically it's like a whiskey sour, but with a float of wine on top.
What?
Yes.
Like a red, a white? What are we talking
Red-
about here? Because
red
I do
wine.
love a good whiskey sour, but that sounds wacky.
Red.
It's delicious with the red wine. Depending on your taste, you can go for a drier wine or a sweeter wine. And yeah, that's
Wine floater. You know what? That's how you answer that question. That's how you play the game. That's fantastic.
Wow.
Just a wine chaser on your whiskey sour. That's tremendous.
Try
I mean,
it. Try it. You're gonna like it.
I just might. That's go go see if I have the whiskey sour ingredients because I definitely have red wine somewhere around my house. That's pretty cool. I mean, what kind of got you interested in this world, like becoming kind of a cocktail girly?
Like a couple of years back, I started going to this gym. A small gym. It was more like kind of personal trainer, but yes, small groups of training. And after being there for a while, I became friendly with the trainer owner, and then he invited me to. They did this. Kind of cocktail nights, so they would turn the gym into a speakeasy.
Love that kind of gym.
Yes, it was. I mean, since you got into the gym, they had like this kind of smoothie bar, but the smoothie bar clearly stopped being a smoothie bar very early because in the game, because all they have is like the bottles, and so you know so obviously, like, the gym, my trainer, who's my really close friend now, and his girlfriend, they were really into cocktails, and they decided they wanted to try it out, and she would do like 8 different cocktails every night. um she would like put together the cocktails, like she's so creative, and they were like top notch. So after that, I was like, oh my god, I didn't know like cocktails could be this good, and this interesting. And she would decorate them with the craziest things and flowers and different glasses. Well, I just didn't know anything, so I was like, oh my god. And yeah, since then I really love like cocktails. We've even gotten into a cocktail competition with them just for fun, and I did not win, but anyway, it was fun.
I mean, a gym. Not gonna lie, a speakeasy in a gym sounds kind of unhinged. Like I see the appeal. I kind of wish, like, I've gone through workouts in my life where like a drink actually sounds pretty fantastic. That being said, like when you're at your maximum dehydrated,
Ooh.
alcohol. I mean, but it sounds like a blast. I'm not yucking your yum here. Trust
I'm
me.
sure there's something delicious you can make with a Powerade or something.
Yeah.
That's how you play the game.
Yes, I mean they don't do the things together, but I will say, like, when people get a little bit drunk, they will start like working out because it's a gym, and it's like, okay, this is what you do when you're drunk. That's funny.
The universe craves balance, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I have so much energy now.
Yeah,
That's
the
awesome.
stimulants and the depressants. That's great. Anyway, keep going, Elisa. I know you got
Oh,
a
yeah.
thousand more questions for me.
No,
so.
like I'm curious, especially because it is such a behind the scenes role, and I imagine that the music industry in general a lot of times tends to be like a male dominated field, and in a lot of kind of more techie positions even more so, especially something that maybe isn't so visible. Credit to you for hanging out with us, because like it is very important to see all sorts of representation behind the scenes. That's something that I champion wholeheartedly. Do you have any advice for folks that might be interested in kind of getting behind the board? And I know that there has been so much more diversity, but I'm sure we still have like plenty of long ways to go. But any advice for folks that are looking to enter mastering specifically, or even just engineering broadly, to kind of make their way through?
Yeah. Yes. I think since I started, obviously, a few years ago, you see more and more women interested in this. And I do think there's a lot of space for women. It's just that it's more than that, it's just the visibility. I think if they feel like they might be interested in it, just start looking up like people, and kind of figuring out like what's the whole process that goes behind an album, for example, what production is, what recording is, what mixing is, and then find women that do it, so you can see that it's possible. Because yeah, I do think what I've noticed over the past years is more just that it's just girls don't see themselves in these jobs. But there's a lot of opportunity for everyone. So it's just like, hopefully, like seeing me here and all of that, people can start like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. And even and also just from like a technical perspective, how can one maybe even other than just like purely listening, um how can maybe one develop an ear for mastering specifically?
yeah, well, I can only say about myself, like what I think, how why I thought I had an ear for it is because, yes, I always paid attention when I was listening to albums, for example, to the space between the songs, for example, right?
Mm.
I always wonder, like, who does that? Who
Yeah.
decides, like, how this song is gonna end and how the other one is gonna start, how much silence it goes between songs and all of that. And that's a mastering engineer thing, for example. I always, when I listen to my friends' songs, I was always like coming with ideas like, oh, maybe if they made it a tiny bit brighter, or the kick hit a little bit more, and kind of thinking more globally about the song. I always kind of thought about songs in that way. I was never good about like the particular things, like how musicians think sometimes, or mixers, like, oh, I love exactly how that drum kit
Mm.
sound, like the kick sounds or whatever. I was always more like, I love the balance of the things, but if the whole thing was just a tiny bit brighter, or if the vocal would just, like just come out a little bit more. So if you feel like you have that eye for detail, but like more in the general sense, mastering might be something for you.
That's
I,
amazing because it's
yeah.
so many of the elements that so many of us take for granted when we're listening to music, and it's almost like it's people joke about bass players like this too, where it's like if they're doing their job right, maybe you don't necessarily notice them as much.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But, right. You miss a good mastering engineer when they're gone.
Yeah.
Well, for sure, bad mastering engineer can ruin a song. So, like, it's a lot of responsibility. So, yeah.
Our guest has been Adania Valencia, who's worked with some of the biggest names in music, making so many songs excellent from artists we love. I mean, just in awe of some of the artists you've gotten to work with, Adania, and it's been really amazing to hear your story. You can follow our guest on Instagram at AdaniaVA. Before we let you go, we got one last question for you. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
Yes, I would say just like keep learning, keep at it. Be consistent. Be consistent in like your listening skills, for example, because even if things are kind of slow for you right now, the more you listen, the more you train yourself for the future. You never know how much like listening to music and being constant in creating and doing and solving issues can help you in your future career.
Fantastic stuff. Please don't be a stranger, okay? This has been a really fun interview, and I don't know how many of these like you get to do as a mastering engineer, but you're a natural. Like this has been a really fun chat, and we've very much enjoyed speaking with you. Our thanks to Adania Valencia and Elisa Rockdock. Our thanks to producer Lauren, and thanks as always to our viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. We'll see you next week.